Finally, Simon Ekpa speaks from detention as he sent a strong message to Ngozi Orabueze. In a video interview, a popular activist speaks about the message Simon Ekpa sent from detention through his ex-wife in Finland. The Finnish government previously restricted Simon Ekpa's movement and communication, preventing him from using his phone and social media. However, there are conflicting claims regarding whether Simon Ekpa was able to communicate with anyone outside Finland despite his restrictions, but reports reveal that some of his restrictions have been lifted. Simon Ekpa's ex-wife has defended him, stating he is not a bad person and that their past relationship issues do not define him. There is also claims that Donald Trump did not invite the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to his inauguration, but instead invited Biafra delegates and other supporters. A US committee is allegedly working on securing the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB. However, some northern Nigerian figures are reportedly against Nnamdi Kanu's release, labeling IPOB members as terrorists while allegedly supporting Boko Haram. There is also a report that several international bodies, including Transparency International and Guinness World Records, recognize IPOB as a peaceful movement. The European Union allegedly monitored and condemned the Nigerian military's actions against Nnamdi Kanu and his family. A referendum for Biafra independence was reportedly conducted online and offline, with support from the EU and other countries like Canada and Israel. There is also claims that Iran is supporting terrorist activities in northern Nigeria, and that the US is aware of these developments through intelligence agencies like the CIA. Let me tell you this story as if we're sitting together and I'm just talking to you. I'll make it engaging, simple, and full of all the details while keeping the flow natural. So, after so much speculation, waiting, and uncertainty, Simon Ekpa has finally spoken from detention. For a while now, nobody knew exactly what was happening with Simon Ekpa. Some people claimed he was completely cut off from the outside world. Others said he was secretly passing messages. And then there were those who believed he was still influencing events despite being detained. But now we have confirmation. Simon Ekpa has broken his silence, and he did it in a way that has left many people talking. He sent a strong message to Ngozi Orabueze, and this message is already stirring up reactions from different corners. Now let's back up a little bit. Simon Ekpa, the controversial and outspoken pro-Biafra activist, has been at the center of political tensions for a long time. His activities and statements have put him in direct conflict with the Nigerian government, and in recent times, even the Finnish government got involved in restricting him. The Finnish authorities placed a ban on his movement and communication. They took away his phone and barred him from using social media. For someone like Simon Ekpa, whose words and online presence have always been a powerful tool, this restriction was a significant move. It meant that for the first time in a long while, he couldn't directly address his followers, send out his usual messages, or mobilize people the way he used to. But as with anything political, there were conflicting claims. Some people said Simon Ekpa was completely cut off and had no way to communicate with the outside world. Others believed that he was still finding ways to pass messages, even under restriction. And then there were those who insisted that some of his restrictions had already been lifted, allowing him to speak to certain people. Nobody really knew the full truth until now. The recent twist in this story came when Simon Ekpa's ex-wife spoke up. Now this was something that caught a lot of people by surprise. In many cases, when someone is in trouble, an ex-wife is the last person you'd expect to come to their defense. But that wasn't the case here. Simon Ekpa's ex-wife defended him. She insisted that he was not a bad person, despite whatever issues they may have had in the past. She made it clear that their personal relationship problems had nothing to do with his political views or his activism. According to her, whatever disagreements they had in their marriage were personal and shouldn't be used to judge his character or his political actions. Now here's where things get really interesting. The message from Simon Ekpa was delivered through his ex-wife, and in this message he had some strong words for Ngozi Orabueze. While the full details of what he said haven't been completely revealed, what we do know is that Simon Ekpa did not hold back. The tone of his message was serious, and it was clear that he had a lot to say. Many people are now speculating about the meaning behind his words and why he specifically addressed Ngozi Orabueze. Some believe it has to do with internal political tensions within the pro-Biafra movement, while others think it could be connected to larger political issues involving Nigeria and the international community. Meanwhile, there's another major development happening at the same time. There are reports that former United States President Donald Trump did not invite the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to his inauguration. Instead, it is being claimed that Donald Trump invited delegates from the Biafra movement and other supporters. If this is true, it would be a huge statement. It would mean that Donald Trump is recognizing and acknowledging the struggle of the indigenous people of Biafra, while at the same time snubbing the Nigerian government. But that's not all. There are also reports that a committee in the United States is actively working to secure the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. Now, this is where things get even more complicated. The Nigerian government has been holding Nnamdi Kanu in detention, and they have labeled the indigenous people of Biafra as a terrorist organization. However, many people, both in Nigeria and internationally, disagree with this label. They argue that the indigenous people of Biafra is a peaceful movement that is simply fighting for the rights and self-determination of its people. According to reports, some powerful figures in northern Nigeria are strongly opposed to Nnamdi Kanu's release. These figures have allegedly been pushing the narrative that the indigenous people of Biafra is a terrorist group, while at the same time supporting organizations like Boko Haram. Now, this is a very sensitive topic because it brings up the long-standing issue of how different groups in Nigeria are treated. There have been accusations that while groups like Boko Haram have carried out numerous violent attacks, they are not treated as harshly as the indigenous people of Biafra, who have not been linked to similar acts of violence. This whole situation has also drawn the attention of international organizations. Reports suggest that Transparency International and even Guinness World Records recognize the indigenous people of Biafra as a peaceful movement. Additionally, the European Union has allegedly been monitoring the situation in Nigeria and has condemned the actions taken against Nnamdi Kanu and his family. This international attention is a big deal because it means that what is happening in Nigeria is not just a local issue, it has become a global discussion. Another major development is that a referendum for Biafra independence has reportedly been conducted both online and offline. This referendum was allegedly supported by the European Union, as well as countries like Canada and Israel. If this is true, then it means the movement for Biafra independence has gained significant international support. At the same time, there are claims that Iran is playing a role in supporting terrorist activities in northern Nigeria. According to these claims, intelligence agencies like the Central Intelligence Agency in the United States are aware of these developments. If Iran is truly involved in influencing events in Nigeria, then it means there are much bigger international interests at play. The United States and Iran have a long history of tension, and if the United States government confirms these reports, it could lead to serious consequences. Bringing it all back to Simon Ekpa, his message from detention has reignited many of these discussions. People are questioning the way the Nigerian government has handled pro-Biafra activists, the fairness of the restrictions placed on them, and the role that international governments are playing in the matter. With Simon Ekpa's restrictions reportedly being eased, many are wondering what his next steps will be. Will he be allowed to continue his activism? Will he face even harsher actions from authorities? Or will international pressure force a change in how the situation is handled? And then, of course, there's the mystery surrounding his message to Ngozi Orabueze. What exactly did he say? Why did he choose to direct a message to her specifically? What impact will his words have on the ongoing struggle for Biafra independence? These are questions that many people are now trying to answer. One thing is certain, this is far from over. The tensions between the Nigerian government and pro-Biafra activists are still very much alive. The involvement of international governments and organizations has added a new dimension to the conflict. And with Seaman Ekpa now speaking out, it seems like we are entering another chapter in this ongoing story. So that's where things stand right now. This is a situation that is constantly evolving, and new developments could emerge at any moment. But for now, all eyes are on Seaman Ekpa, his message, and what comes next. This story is definitely layered with a lot of moving parts. It's crazy to think about how much has been happening behind the scenes with Seaman Ekpa and the wider Biafra independence movement. There are so many players involved, both locally and internationally, and it feels like there are more twists coming every day. I find it especially interesting that Seaman Ekpa chose to send his message through his ex-wife. Definitely a surprising way to break his silence. It also says a lot about the power dynamics at play. The involvement of international entities like the European Union, the US, and even Iran brings a whole new level of complexity. Everyone seems to be picking sides, and the stakes seem to be higher than ever. And then there's the matter of Nnamdi Kanu's detention, the accusations against the Nigerian government, and the debate about whether the indigenous people of Biafra should be considered a terrorist group. The conflicting narratives surrounding Biafra's fight for independence seem to be at the core of everything. With these tensions only growing, I'm curious how things are going to play out. The message Seaman Ekpa sent, directed at Ngozi Orabueze, also raises a lot of questions. It could really have a big impact on how the pro-Biafra movement moves forward. It feels like we are definitely on the verge of something major, but it's hard to predict exactly where it's going to go next. The situation with Seaman Ekpa and the wider Biafra independence movement has been a simmering pot for years, and every new development seems to add fuel to the fire. The fact that Seaman Ekpa is now able to communicate, and with such a direct message, suggests that his influence might still be alive and well, even if he's been restricted. If his message to Ngozi Orabueze has any weight, it could stir up even more internal divisions within the pro-Biafra movement. Or maybe it's just a signal to those paying attention that he's ready to take things further, regardless of what's been happening around him. The intrigue around why he chose to address her specifically adds another layer of tension to the story. On a larger scale, the political dynamics are what's really going to shape the next steps. The international involvement is huge. If the reports about Donald Trump inviting Biafra delegates and not the Nigerian president are true, that would definitely shake things up. It sends a message to the Nigerian government that the international community, or at least some parts of it, may be leaning in favor of the pro-Biafra cause. If countries like Canada, Israel, and even the EU are backing a referendum for Biafra independence, that would give the movement a kind of legitimacy it hasn't had before. It would be a big shift in how the issue is seen globally. But that also raises questions. Is the Nigerian government going to continue to clamp down on Biafra activists? Are they going to push harder against international pressure? Or will they be forced to find some kind of resolution? If the US and other countries are indeed working on freeing Nnamdi Kanu, could that become a tipping point? There's so much going on behind the scenes, and with Iran allegedly playing a part, it seems like this situation could become a geopolitical issue as well. As for Seaman Ekpa, his next steps will be crucial. If his restrictions are indeed easing, will he try to amplify his message even more? Could he end up becoming an even more prominent figure in the fight for Biafra independence? Or will the Nigerian government, perhaps with international pressure, step in and try to quiet him down again? But one thing is for sure, this story is far from over. It's building to something, whether it's a bigger shift in the movement or a confrontation with the government. The way things are unfolding now could either lead to a breakthrough or escalate into something more tense. With Simon Ekpa's message coming through and all the international involvement, it's almost like the movement for Biafra independence is getting a new kind of attention, an attention that might force the Nigerian government to reconsider its stance, or at least how it handles the situation. One possible outcome is that this could spark more widespread international support for the cause, especially with those reports of countries like Canada, Israel, and even the EU seemingly backing the idea of Biafra's independence. If this movement gains traction on the global stage, the Nigerian government might feel more pressure to address the issue seriously, rather than just trying to suppress it. On the other hand, it could also backfire, with the Nigerian government doubling down, labeling the movement even more harshly, and increasing the crackdown on pro-Biafra activists. And then there's Simon Ekpa himself. His influence has always been tied to his voice, and now that he's spoken, it raises the question of whether his words will have a domino effect. It's possible that more people will rally behind his message, pushing the movement even further into the spotlight. But at the same time, if the government sees his return to activism as a threat, they could take more drastic actions to silence him again.
Confidential. Oge said he had phone discussion with Ekpa. I think there's a conflicting issue there. Obviously, Ekpa was restricted from movement. Ekpa was restricted by Finlandia government from communicating with anybody. Both his phone is under seizure. He has no access to his social media, account. So he was restricted from talking to anybody, speaking from social media, making commentary as usual. And we've seen how the ex-wife actually, proved it's actually that Simon Ekpa, from his tone, Ekpa isn't a bad man. And Ekpa issue with the ex-wife wasn't that, let me say, a bad one that could, breach their, two of them communicating together. They still have, that rapport together, because from the angle where the ex-wife is speaking, Ekpa was just restricted to, from making comments. His phone is under restriction, that is seized. Or they just restricted him, not that they seized. There are right words to be used this time around. They didn't seize his phone, only that he should speak within the enclavement. It shouldn't be something that someone will say, I was in America, I discussed, phone discussion with Ekpa. No. The issue is that Oge said he had phone discussion with Ekpa. I think there's a conflicting issue there. Because as the government of Hollandia instructed him not to, at least, speak without Finland. It should be within Finland. The communication should be within Finland. It shouldn't be outside Finland. It should be within the area where he was kept or meant to stay. So Okere's statement that he called Simon Ekpa on phone, I think if true, if he's saying the truth, I think it's something that is based on opinion this time around, because I don't see it coming. Finland restricted him from communicating with anybody, especially someone whose phone is not, is not allowed to use his phone. He's not allowed to reach out people through his social media, account or handle. I don't think, I think it's beginning to look somehow. So his discussion with Simon Ekpa, I don't think many people will buy into it saying, okay, he's saying the truth, okay. I don't think many people will buy into that. So that's why I'm trying to use opinion. Because I'm somebody, I don't need to say what my fellow agitators are doing is bad, that they're not getting it right. No, they are. If actually Ekpa spoke with Oge, it means that maybe he did it. Because I know that if actually he did, Finland authority should have known that. And they should be the one that gave him that kind of chance to speak with somebody outside the facility where Ekpa is now. Because all I know is that is allowed to get access to his family. Maybe after that, he will go back to where the Finland authority, has kept or ordered for him to stay. But telephone discussion, communication with somebody outside the facility where Ekpa is, I think it's dicey. I think it's dicey to do that. Very, very dicey.
Okay, still on that note, I just want to finally ask, it's alleged that Donald Trump did not invite the Nigerian president for his inauguration. Meanwhile, he invited delegates for Biafra. What do you have to say about this?
He has set committee to make sure to work on, to facilitate the quickest release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. A committee like that has been set, has been in place right now in the US, in his cabinet. So they are working around the clock now to free him, even if Aso Rock does not approve it. Then again, the invitation of a Biafran delegate has gone a long way to explain how far Biafra has gone over the years to make sure that Trump's second coming will actually be in our favor. RFI is headache, typhoid fever in Kaduna State. Bache Ahmad, the media aide to Buhari, is making his trouble now. That Nnamdi Kanu is a terrorist. That every IPOB member is a terrorist. That they should not release Nnamdi Kanu. That instead of releasing Nnamdi Kanu, they should allow Boko Haram. You see this kind of hatred. And they still believe that Allah is God and Muhammad is what? A peaceful prophet. And we are committing all manner of, hostilities against a tribe simply because they are Christians. I don't know what I understand. So that's why Donald Trump could not invite anybody, any cleric from the north. Yes, to what? Grace his inaugural speech. He invited Kumuyi. He actually know that out of the pastors, large numbers of pastors we have in Nigeria, that Kumuyi is a nice man. He allowed Nathaniel, I think a gospel singer. He allowed Biafra delegates. In fact, Donald Trump's chief of staff, a woman, Susie Willis, is a Biafran lobbyist, good friend of Nnamdi Kanu. Then the Attorney General of Federation of USA today, a young man, what is that his name? Is a Biafran lobbyist, a good friend to Nnamdi Kanu, and many, many of them. In fact, United States has turned their back on Shua Arabs, Arab Maghreb called. These people are just from Sahel countries of this continent. They are from desert. You find out that people from southern Libya, southern Algeria, southern Morocco, Mali, Senegal, and Gambia are the ones that are constituting terrorism across Africa. And they are timely people. Trump doesn't want trouble. That's why he retracted from inviting anybody, both Sheikh and Sultana or Emir from the north. He doesn't want trouble.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ralph, for that. So, in conclusion, what are your few words of conclusion for us today?
In conclusion, we should allow peace to reign, and we are Biafra faithfuls. I'm a staunch follower of Nnamdi Kanu, and every Igbo man is, because the name the man carved out as Biafra followers has actually made him a household name anywhere Igbos are. Because the meaning of indigenous people of Biafra is Igbo man. Anybody that is born anybody whose parents or ancestors are traced to southeastern Nigeria is an IPOB member. Of course, I want to shock you all that Rihanna is from Igbo land. Her mom told her that her father is from Igbo Nigeria, not Igbo Haiti, not Igbo Barbados or Belize. So Rihanna is an IPOB. Everybody that speaks Igbo, everybody that is traced his ancestry to Igbo land is an IPOB. So my story's tale means that we should stop troubling trouble. When trouble has not troubled us, Nnamdi Kanu is meant well for everybody, and unconditionally, Nigerian government should free Nnamdi Kanu. But IPOB agitation did not start in Nigeria. Now they started it over in the UK. And they were doing their agitation business in the United Kingdom peacefully, which was why Transparency International and other rating companies gave IPOB the most peaceful agitation in the world. They won it as an award, incentive by Guinness Book of Record, by Bloomberg, by Transparency International. IPOB agitation was going on and on in Europe, across the European member nations. IPOB agitation was going on in the Far East Asia, China, Japan, and so on and so forth. You have IPOB members in India, you have IPOB members in Kenya, across African countries. They have never been violent, a violent group. There was never a time they were, growing violent. So, which is why when General Buhari led army of soldiers with armored tank into Ahiaruhu community, I think, where Nnamdi Kanu comes from, they desecrated the compound, the palace of His Royal Highness Israel, His Royal Highness Israel Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu's father was the king of his community. They desecrated the palace. The European Union were watching. They were the one that called Buhari to order that they could attest to what happened at Nnamdi Kanu's compound. Do you know what? They played the video. Because I told you that I have often told people that Nnamdi Kanu's compound was bugged with CCTV everywhere, and you don't see it. So they watch it. Nnamdi Kanu was like doing the commentary that Ekpa was doing in the past, commenting and showing the whole world, look at my dog, they have shot my dog, look at soldiers, look at dead bodies. They don't know that he was acting film. They thought that the man was just soliloquizing for nothing. Then actually EU were busy watching what took part at Nnamdi Kanu's compound, which was why after escape into Senegal, Kanu escaped by whiskers. They would have shot him, but it was Ikonso that defended Nnamdi Kanu. Ikonso and other Niger Delta boys, militants. And then Nnamdi Kanu was escaped through Azimiri, from where he was, ferried to Senegal. Nnamdi Kanu did not follow road. It was through Earth Ocean there, our Biafran coastal line. So, what am I trying to say? The British, the Austria, what they call them, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, all the European EU member countries, they watched what actually, by themselves, transpired on the palace of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's father. And it was from that trauma that Mazi Israel Kanu, His Royal Highness, took ill and he died. You don't desecrate the palace of a king in Igbo land. It is an abomination. It is out of that trauma that His Royal Highness Israel Kanu died. And after burying Nnamdi Kanu's father, federal government of Nigeria under Buhari could not apologize to that community, even to the family of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's father died of trauma. It was Buhari administration that His Royal Highness Israel Kanu. They could not even apologize. They said he could not come. If he come, blah blah blah. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu attended the burial of his father. Every dignitary in Nigeria, they attended the burial of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's father. Even he attended, they could not know. They could not see him. Because that was during Buhari regime. Buhari was out to the camp, accusing him of jumping bail. Jumping bail, how could you roll army of soldiers to someone that is standing trial? You want to... He ran to defend himself. He ran to save himself. He ran to save his life. The soldiers were about to... So that's why he ran. And the European Union, so far, they watched the whole film that happened on Nnamdi Kanu's palace. That's why they came out en mass. There's nowhere in Europe IPOB was not approved to do their rally, because they are very, very peaceful people. That's why this time they supported referendum that was conducted in Finland. Though Tinubu went to France to truncate that referendum, that declaration, he could not stop there. He bribed France, and Macron called Finland so that declaration of Biafra will not take place at Gensibila Square. You know what happened? Finland rejected it. They called by France and still allowed declaration to take place. So that's why you can see EU today. EU has approved Biafra now. They allowed Biafra, and today the referendum they are talking about has been conducted online and offline. Millions of Igbos voted Biafra emancipation, sovereignty, successfully. So it is allowed to conduct referendum outside the troubled region or country. So it is done in various places. Biafra is not the first referendum that could hold outside the soil of that region. So if not conducted in Nigeria, referendum is possible in America. And as I'm talking to you now, White House has allowed Biafra. They have recognized Biafra. In the past, I think last year, Canada has recognized Biafra with documents. Israel has done so. It's documented. So what are we saying? Obviously, Tinubu was not invited because of their connection with the terrorism. Anything about terror in Africa is mass-minded by these Chua Arabs. In Nigeria here, everything that is happening now in the north, that bordering on insurgency, are the head. They are the champions. And they don't expect Trump to invite the north. The north are working hand in hand with Iran. Iran's hand is in Boko Haram. Iran has hand in banditry. Iran has hand in clan headers. And they are the ones sponsoring Boko Haram, Ansaru, ISWAP, and the Lukurawa terrorists. So these people are gaining from Iran, and you know that Iran is an enemy. Iran is, as a country, is an enemy of America. So whatever is happening in Nigeria here, America are having agents that are giving them information. CIA is all over the world. And the office of America, this OGA, getting one office of global, getting one, remain A. Office of Global Access, that is what it's called, OGA. America is having it all over the world. Whatever is happening in Nigeria now, America knows, because they have their agents all over the world. And this OGA representing America give America that dynamism or impetus to go and act militarily in any part of the world. They will go military operation, and successfully they will come back. They will go back to US. So these are people that are informers, updating America with everything that the North is doing. The North is bent on perpetrating acts of terrorism across Nigeria. The fact that is an Al-Qaeda prone region in Nigeria, America predicted it before 2015. That come what may, the North will fall before Al-Qaeda, ISWAP, that is ISIS, and the other terror group in the world. Is it not happening? We are having over how many platforms? Yes, terrorist platform performing in the North. All one interest, one ideology, on one belief. Why? What is that? Islamization. They are trying to annex the whole country under one language, under one religion, Islam. That's why bandits are busy killing, abducting. Boko Haram are busy performing an act of arsonism and terrorism across northeast, core north, and northwest. That's why you see the headers fighting communities in Benue State, communities in the whole Middle Belt states, in Christians without any cogent reason. And that's why Trump, ended up last year, no, not last year even, 4 years ago, asking Buhari, why are you Christians? Why are the blacks Muslims? They are black brothers. Could you come out with cogent reasons? And when they had summit in New York, United Nations summit, Buhari was there. Other African countries were chatting with Trump. Trump said, no, I don't have business with a lifeless man, Nigerian lifeless president. That was what Trump called him. So Trump was following all that was happening when he was US president and the Buhari was American president. The Christians were busy dying. And now that he was not in power for 4 years, he was following up all that Buhari administration, the Christians that were being on daily basis in Nigeria. Do you know how many Christians are dying in their large number in the north? And Nigerian government is not doing anything because Nigerian government is 75%.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.